Okay, recording again.
There was a brief interruption with a phone call. I can't remember what I was just saying, actually. It was about the connection, wasn't it? Oh, no, yeah, the underlying theme, you could say, is I can connect nothing with nothing. So he's saying, I have all these experiences, the different things. You know, he lived above, I think, a pub, so you could hear the chatter and a clatter, that was of something else, but you could hear them talking, and then you'd go somewhere and see these other people. Then he'd be in Margate, and it was a completely different environment from London. So he'd have all these experiences, and he'd put them all down there, because that's what he's experiencing. And he doesn't say how they connect, because he's saying, I can connect nothing with nothing. I don't know how they connect. Okay, so I thought, well, this is great, this different episodes put next to each other. But the difference is, I think, I'm going to use that pattern, that model, but I am going to connect them. You know, I don't see them being unconnected. To me, they are all connected. What I'm not going to do is necessarily tell people how they're connected. So I might say, I'm painting a picture, and I might describe the picture. The way I talked to you about the picture, I could put that in the poem. I could have taped that and put it in the poem. End of that section. Then I might say, Greg wants to know about this, that, and the other. Then I might say, actually, I'm going to make some dinner. Then I might say, I keep on listening to Leonard Cohen. I wonder why I listen to Leonard Cohen. Oh, the news is this, not sure about art anymore, you know. And it's like boom, 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 boom. So it's almost like, it's not a stream of consciousness. It's not just like any old thing goes.
Yeah, it's just the turns you go through when you...
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much aware that I'm creating a poem. Like any artistic creation, to my mind, has to have structure. Okay, mine is a kind of, you might say, a loose... In fact, I actually talk about this in the poem. It's a narrative, and in a narrative usually have a beginning, middle and end. Well, I've got a very short beginning, a massive middle, and we don't know what the end is yet. And in the past, people would use mythologies, biblical mythologies, Greek mythologies, as a kind of prop almost, you know, or a kind of structure. Well, we don't believe in that. We don't believe in many mythologies. I suppose there's Princess Diana, there's Doctor Who, there's Kurt Cobain. There's not that much that's shared. I suppose more educated people might share Carl Jung, but a lot of people wouldn't. Britain's Got Talent, but how long is that going to last? I mean, it's a big mythology. So what I thought I'd better do is use ordinary events as mythology. So are you running out of space or anything?
No.
Right, so the 263 bus becomes like the equivalent of some Greek god's chariot. And particularly two stops, the Oak Lane bus stop, which you get off from East Finchley, or you get on to go to North Finchley, and opposite the Lewis Gardens bus stop, which you get off from North Finchley or get on to get to East Finchley Station. But they're facing each other. Funnily enough, actually, Google Street View has me and Jasmine crossing over the zebra crossing to get to the bus stop with our faces blurred. So I thought, well, they're finding significance in the past in these mythological figures. Let's find significance in an ordinary life, because that's where you want your life to be significant.
Yeah.
You don't want your life to be dull and the significance is all over there. You want your life to be meaningful. And so I found a lot of meaning in this mundanity.
Yeah.
You know, I'm engaging with it. So that runs through the poem. It keeps on recurring. I suppose there's a series of rhythms interacting. So this is one thing, it keeps on. I mean, if I just did the 263 bus all the way through, I mean, you get bored to tears. But you familiarise yourself with the 263, then maybe I'm looking at social factors, particularly things on YouTube, particularly keen on looking at the freedom of expression, you know, woke ideology and the way it imposes on people. and the way the police are arresting people for pronouns and ridiculous things like that. I mean, that's certainly a factor. Then there's all Sarah's medical things, and there's my medical things. So there's some of the bigger things, but they like leapfrog over each other. You get them, the 263 bus, then you'll get something else happening, then you get something else, you know, theme A, theme B, theme C, then you'll get back to the bus, then you might get theme C again, you might go to theme A, and then you might get theme D introduced that wasn't there. So bottom line is I want it to be a good read. And my philosophy of poetry is that it should be as easy to read as a newspaper, but it's just dealing with different themes, it's dealing with deeper things, but the actual language should be as clear as reading a newspaper. Why? Because newspapers sell, people want to read them.
Yeah. Well,
they don't want to read poetry because it's convoluted and tedious.
Yeah, why have a barrier when you don't need one?
And I think it's because people don't know what they're talking about.
They're disguising it with cleverness.
Yeah. Because they haven't got the significance in the event. If the event is important enough, if you're in a cinema and you see something burning, you just shout, "There's a bloody fire!"
Yeah, you're not worrying about your syntax, are you?
You don't dress it up. You don't try and find a new way of using language. It's like video art, so-called video art. Well, obviously all the video and filming has been done by so many people on this big screen. So they have to find something different. And all they have to find is what hasn't been done. And the reason it hasn't been done is because it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
For example, getting an image, maybe a sequence, car driving down a road under a bridge. Then you go back to the beginning, same sequence, car drives down the road, so boom, boom. You repeat it. Well, obviously mainstream cinema wouldn't do that because no one would bother to watch it. So they found something that is different, and you can say, yes, it makes a point, but at the end of the day, it's tedious, it's boring.
Yeah.
I mean, even Sir Nicholas Sirota said you don't have to sit there watching all the way through. And in fact, there's, I can't remember his name now, but there's a leading video pioneer. He did stuff on Channel 4 when it started. I think his name's David something or other. He was head of TBM, time-based media at Maidstone College when I was there. And he said, to appreciate video art, you've got to break through the boredom barrier. In other words, you're going to be, the artist is going to be bored of you.
Right.
But you've got to get beyond that to appreciate it. But why do you want to get beyond being, if you're bored, you're bored. Why should you have to get beyond it? I actually told Sirota that because I bumped into him in a gallery during the Turner Prize. He was looking around at this. I think it was this guy's work, actually, David, or whatever his name is. And I went up to him and said, I was at college when he was head of a department there, and he said there's a boredom barrier. But and I think it was not long after that Sirota made the comment that you don't have to sit right through to the end of the video.
Yeah. But imagine if you opened a restaurant and he said, right, well, the food's disgusting, but once you've got past that, see how long you stay in business.
It's not surprising that poetry is such a minority thing and attracts so much scorn.
It's so laughable when they do their, that alliteration for the sake of it. How many words can I think of that sound the same letter? And it's got, well, why? I mean, why not just talk normally?
Well, I mean, sometimes it can be clever. It depends how it's done, but
it's the gratuitousness of the way a lot of it's performed.
Well, it's pretentious. And it's incomprehensible. And it's, you look at it and it's hard to read. Well, okay, if people want that, fine. I don't. And I think it's actually the same with art. People can't understand what it's meant to be. We've talked about this a lot with Stuckism. People have gone into the Turner Prize and come out and say, we agree with you. That's happened quite a lot. Whereas when we had the big show, I don't think you were in that one, but it was before your time, we had a big show at the Walker Art Gallery in Liverpool. And they extended it from 2 to 5 months because it's very popular. They said it was popular with tourists, artists, curators, children, citizens of Liverpool. They could come in, they could enjoy it, they could talk about it.
Yeah.
And one of the things was John Bourne painting, showing a family. I think the father was standing up with a cup of tea, and I don't know who it was, maybe it was some school children or talking about it, and they're saying, why has he got the tea and nobody else? Well, it starts you thinking. Okay, maybe not massively profound, but who knows where you could go with that.
Yeah.
But you've got something to engage with.
No, well, I learned that because I learned that on CAMDEN because they're not. If they're not interested, they'll walk straight past. So there's no second prize. So you have to do something that people respond to that is also in line with what you want to do as an artist. And it's quite strange how different all that is from what I would have imagined it to be, because you are engaging with people, which is something I don't ordinarily think about.
I mean, I do. I mean, my work, when now I'm doing the poetry, I think the same attitude was there with the painting. I do think about people. I can particularly talk about the poetry, but I think about people reading it, which is not always comfortable, because in the poem, you see, poetry is, writing is much more explicit than painting. It's more immediate. I mean, you can paint a picture of someone pleasuring themselves, and it's kind of a bit detached. Whereas if you say, "Oh, someone's having a wank," it goes bang. You could put that picture in a certain context, and people could kind of slightly not see it. Whereas if you actually announced in the middle of this same group of people, about having a wank,
there's
it's going to hit home. So I think, for me, poetry is more vulnerable. Painting is almost like one disguise. Well, it's the painting, it's not me. Whereas when you've written the poem, to some extent it's the poem, not me, but it's more connected with you, I think. Personally.
Yeah, and there's less room to wiggle room with ambiguity. With the word is a word, and a word has a meaning.
And if you do have ambiguity, it doesn't work, because what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So it's catch-22. And I suppose in this poem I'm trying to develop more honesty than I have been able to in the past. I mean, I'm not being dishonest, but I've written some. Well, sometimes I've written some quite explicit things, some quite personal, emotional things, but sometimes the vulnerability and the honesty is not in what you think it would be. It's not necessarily in shocking things. It can be in how you think how people will view you. Let's supposing you dote on a fluffy toy animal. You think, well, people are going to think I'm soppy, they're going to think I'm silly, I'm going to mature or whatever. So that's the sort of thing I'm trying to be more honest about. Things that you wouldn't even necessarily think about them. You wouldn't necessarily think about it's a thing that you need to be honest about or dishonest. It just wouldn't come into the picture because the whole of society has automatically ruled it out. I mean, if you're an adult, you don't write a poem about how you love a fluffy toy animal. You don't do it, do you?
No.
Because it's not considered. You could write a poem about, a woman or a man. You could possibly even write about a painting, but not about a toy animal. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And there's lots of things like that I think are part of our experience, part of my experience. That's an example I want to bring into it.
Good.
And I want to share with people, because again, coming back to Bukowski in particular, his openness and directness about what he likes and doesn't like, and the fact that he thinks it's quite okay to go into the odds on betting on horses and the silks the riders are wearing and the horses. I'm not interested in horse racing or horses or jockeys or betting, but I found it interesting because of the way he wrote about it.
Yeah.
I found it interesting to read. That's another thing I want to do. I mean, I want to write about I'm sure most people didn't give a monkeys about the 263 bus. But the way I'm writing about it, hopefully, they'll say, well, actually, it's like the bus I get on in Manchester.
That's right. You can connect with people even if the subject matter doesn't connect with them by your experience of the 263. Is it a response to something which I'm sure mirrors millions of people's responses to things that aren't the 263?
Like the bus is late, or the bus driver's gone straight past because the bus is full up.
Mm.
Well, it doesn't matter where you're living in the country. You can understand that. You can relate to it, even if it hasn't happened directly to you. It's something maybe you don't want to happen to you.
Yeah.
And other things that are more unusual. I mean, there's this old guy on the bus who had this radio out loud playing pop songs, and some other guy in front was getting really agitated, some other old guy. They ended up having this slanging match. Well, maybe you've never had that, but it's entertaining.
Yeah. And a lot of the time I like to read about things I haven't had an experience of. I mean, there's a series called Prison Break where millions of people watched it who I'm sure have never been to prison. But it's a fantasy, and a fantasy, is often something for that very reason you've not experienced.
Well, I mean, I read Nicholas Montserrat's book The Cruel Sea about a frigate in World War II. Well, I don't know how to experience anything like that, really. But it was gripping, and he made it real.
I was listening to a lady in a shop yesterday. She was talking about her husband. She goes, I walked through the front door and he's lying on the ground and he says, get me to a hospital, I've broken my neck. And I said, if only. And then I walked
Sorry, what? This lady?
Yeah, she's I was in a charity shop in Chatham.
You witnessed it?
Yes. I was paying for something, and I was paying for my shop, my canvases that I bought, but I was really listening to her because the way she spoke, the rhythm of her, she could have been a stand-up comedian, but she's this old lady in one of those scooter things, talking about her husband, very much like how all the old sitcoms used to talk about their old boiler of a wife, and she was so funny. I thought it's a shame she's not on stage saying this because she'd make a fortune. But again,
so you say her husband was lying on the floor?
She said she got in one day.
Got into the house.
Yeah, her husband's lying on the floor, and her husband says, "Get me to hospital. I've broken my neck." And she goes, "Yeah, if only."
Had he broken his neck?
Well, no. I mean, I'm sure she had. Although,
what?
She didn't confirm one way or the other, but I think the assumption was that he hadn't. Do you fancy doing that one on the wall, or having a rest for a cup of tea or anything?
Oh, what's up for a cup of tea?